But what's really interesting about the last year, and as I look forward, if I think about the next 2 years of incremental volumes for this category and for hemp, and frankly also for cannabis, that volume is being driven by the South.
For years, the association, our national trade association, was the National Beer Wholesalers Association. We did, as a group driven by our board of directors, after a lot of thought groups and the amount of contemplation you might imagine goes into turning a ship that big, decide to change the name of the association to the National Beer and Beverage Wholesalers Association. And I think that's just a reflection of, yeah, it's great. It's just a reflection of what the membership was naturally gravitating toward. I think that signals a movement for where most distributors are at this point. I mean, we are, we operate in this heavily regulated environment, and we're used to that. We know how to deal with that, and we know how to talk to legislators. You're going to see a lot more of that, and as you do, you'll have help in your legislatures from distributors in terms of having these conversations. If you can come to a legislative body with a full industry group and say, look, I got the grocers, I got the suppliers, I got the distributors, and we're all here to say, this is the body of regulation that we want. And by the way, we want you to tax it. We want you to take that money and use it to enforce the regulation, because nobody in this room wants to have a bad or a dangerous product out there. That's what you see in other countries with alcohol that's not regulated. You see fake and counterfeit. You see product that can't be traced. That's really where your wholesalers are going to be able to help educate and inform and help get reasonable, responsible regulations in place. When that happens, then you start to get a comfort level with some of these larger chains.
Matt Sokolowski from Great Bay Distributors. We're an 11 million case wholesaler on the central west coast of Florida, so the Tampa Bay area. Anheuser-Busch, our main supplier, Constellation, our second, and we're truly moving into the total beverage warehouse system. Have been for about 10 years, and this is just another segment to put into the system. 2 years ago, I was talking about being a total beverage wholesaler that was beer, wine and spirits, and non-alcoholics. And now I'm talking about 4 segments. We just put out our strategic plan for our company of here's our 4 segments, and mood altering is now what we have in our system. Whereas you wanted to be a third to be relevant to the retailers and the consumers, now maybe it's 25, 25, 25.
What do you know to be true about your customer, and how does that fit in with this category?
Our customer in general in the South, for us, a large majority of our business is chain grocery, chain big box, chain C-stores. Another great story that's happening with our customer base in our territory is the on-premise. The on-premise is back, obviously completely dead 5 years ago, and has come back, and it's coming back in a great way for our total business, for beer in a lot of ways, but a ton of interest in this category as well, I think, as they're seeing that consumer psychology around it change and that consumer demand there.
We're seeing the same thing in Florida, right? The consumers are searching for it, they just can't find it. 7 years ago, we were independent heavy in the convenience chain, and now chains are driving the thing. So it's sort of a give and take, is who's going to be the first to fall and really embrace it. Some of the larger liquor chains have done it, but we've seen the retailers are actually reaching out to us. They want subject matter experts. So I think a lot of it has to come to the education, right? Both of our sales teams, the retailers, and eventually the consumers, because they want to try it. And retailers are coming to us saying, we hear about these brands. So that's the other part of it is the feedback from retailers is, hey, give us these brands, or have you heard of this brand? Is it a good brand? So now we've become sort of like the vetting process for them as well. And there's a trusted relationship in the system already.
Largest group of buyers are 21 to 28-year-olds, and they're not drinking.
And our chain business is something that we put an emphasis on, because getting into some of these places early on in the education and working with the right partners out there to get into these is really what I would say is one of the key separations that I see to the north versus the south.
We're seeing some of the regional liquor stores, right? They want to get into it earlier. ABC Liquor is one of those, right? And we have a great relationship with them, and their buyers talking to us and saying, we know our consumer, we know our shoppers are doing it. We have 3 SKUs now. We want to expand this year. And so they're looking for those brands. And if you get like an ABC Liquor into it, aside from just what Total Wine is, ABC is that trusted Southern liquor store. It's owned by a family still in the South in Florida. So I think that's going to create even more acceptance by the consumers.
One common criticism that I get is that, well, this product is only popular because weed isn't legal in the South. And so if it were, then beverage wouldn't be as popular, or this whole hemp thing wouldn't be as popular as it is, because really people just want their flower and things like that to be able to smoke, and they're just not able to do that.
Totally disagree. A lot of people, don't want to take offense to this at all, don't want to go find a dispensary if there is one and go in there, get frisked, chained up, and then buy their product, and then walk out the door with a black plastic bag. It looks like they're at a porn shop. They just don't. They want to walk into a brightly lit, friendly, woman-friendly store where they feel confident that they're going to get something good. They feel like it's normal. That's why we put it everywhere in our stores, and feel like they don't feel guilty or like it's a sin buying the product. If we had weed stores in Texas, our sales would be even stronger than they are now.
Let me add this too, in terms of chains coming on. I think we know that there's a major C-store chain that is going to be running a test in Georgia, right? And I think that vets out the fact that regulation is going to continue to, quote, legitimize the category in the eyes of these big retailers. And so you see a state like Georgia come with regulation, and boom, immediately, not immediately, but pretty damn quick, a major C-store chain is on.
Everything that comes in our social world, it always comes down to a beverage, right? They do smoke and they do chew leaves and everything, but ultimately, when you're getting together for a long period of time, you're drinking, right? So that's why this drink is desirable. It fulfills that occasion. I think that DNA inside us of let's be social together as a group.
Another thing that I think surprised people about the South is, let's say that oh, well, regulators aren't going to be able to wrap their heads around this, and kind of a view that a more conservative leaning state would be anti-cannabis in general. So I'd love to hear the panel's thoughts on that.
The problem you have with most legislators, they don't understand it. The more they understand it and they see the tax revenues the potential tax revenues that are going to come from this, their eyes open up even more.
The comfort level for certainly our company and maybe other distributors as well is knowing that there are so many legitimate players at the supplier level in the space that crave that regulation, that crave that alcohol-like, beer-like regulation, that understand how to go to the state legislators either with us or, standing on their own, that really understand the power that the system, the three-tier system that exists out there for intoxicating beverage already can provide.
So I normally do not spend time with politicians. This is not my thing. Nothing wrong with them, but just it's not how my brain works. I happened to be in a room with one person from the hemp industry and a state senator, and I'll never forget, he was more informed than I could have ever imagined. He said, let me just throw this at you before you guys start talking. He was like, as I understand it, and I'm a fourth generation farmer, you got to understand. He was like, as I understand this, in my state, we've got this citrus blight going. So for my constituents, as in farmers, this hemp thing, as I understand it, instead of one crop per year that my farmers are turning, they get 2 turns and they can make more money doing it. So he's like, so tell me how this is not a good idea. And I'm like, you've made my point for me. Thank you so much. I'll just get out of the room right now.
We focus heavily on the on-premise, and about 30% of our company-wide business is on-premise, and we've got certain cities that are slightly heavier. But for us, we see a real opportunity in the on-premise. And I mean, these on-premise retailers, they're looking for a reason to put a mocktail on the menu, to put an additional item on the menu. Like we partnered with Sony Music in Nashville, or the CMA Awards. Well, they own 6 of the top 10 music venues on the Strip and Broadway. We've got places on the Strip. They're doing 25, 30 cases a month, depending on the events going on. That's what we should be excited about, is places like this are so hard to get your brands into that now they're purchasing these products.
Florida tends to be like an awesome sampling opportunity for any brand. There's millions of visitors. You're in Miami, right? There's a million opportunities to sample people that are going to go back to some other state. I don't know where it lands. Some guys are saying it could be 20% of the beverage industry as far as intoxicants go. And make no mistake, I'm excited that several people on a couple of panels are talking about these as intoxicants, because they are, which leads to the regulation part of it. And that's why you've got to have a free market. Yes, because you want access to market for the little guys. You want a regulated free market so the product is safe, trackable, traceable. And then the taxation helps because there's a ton of pet projects that get funded with the taxes for alcohol. And so the same thing could happen with the taxes for THC. And the legislators are aware of that. I mean, you look at Florida, they voted against recreational marijuana, but Delta 9 THC is still legal. He vetoed the bill that was going to make it regulated because he didn't like the regulations, and he spelled out in his longest veto letter ever what he wanted regulations to kind of look like. If the stakeholders don't get together between retailers, suppliers, consumer groups, and distributors, the legislators are going to do it on their own, and whenever that happens, no industry likes it. So if we don't get together and talk about it and help it, I think we're going to end up someplace we don't want to be.
I think the South is primed for it, pertinent to the panel, because like you said, there are, the South, Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, some of these guys were behind this farm bill that created this. A lot of the ag in this country lives in this part of the South. So they drove this bill. They are getting into the hemp business. And so I think, and legislators understand that, and they want to they're there to serve their constituents.
One of my favorite stats coming out of the last election cycle was Kentucky. So Kentucky had on the ballot, every single county had the opportunity to vote yay or nay on medical cannabis, and every single county in Kentucky voted yes. So this is not a partisan question whatsoever.
I'm seeing, like in Florida, it's been a 3-year project, in spite of what may be out in the public, right? We've been having these conversations with legislators because we knew the products were coming. We have a coalition of not only just beer distributors, we have wine and spirits distributors that are on board. We have chain convenient lobbyists, you have independent lobbyists all together. Whether you're conservative or liberal, like when the industry or the stakeholders all come together, you can't argue like, well, that's the will of the people. Whether they're my voters or their voters, everyone's on the same page for once. And it's kind of nice and it's refreshing when you're talking and having those conversations. I know for us, right, we have restaurants and bars, they're asking for us. They want the 5 milligrams because they want people to enjoy and drink responsibly.
We had issues for about a day. They figured out how to insure us. We also had issues with our credit card processors questioning. It went away after maybe 2 or 3 days. We would not make that step if we were not completely covered. Same thing with ABC, same thing with Total. I mean, we're just not going to risk our business for this one segment.
I will share what I know, which is that DoorDash is processing transactions right now. Any of you could go pull out your DoorDash app and order THC drinks here to this hotel right now, if you wanted to. And that is being processed by real payment processors.
Regulation is going to help just quell all of this. We'll look back and go, remember when we were talking about how to make these transactions? What goes on in state by state is going to continue to give comfort to those insurers. It's going to continue to give comfort to credit card processors.
You have 2 of the 3 largest states in the United States in the South,
Right.
Texas and Florida. And you can say, oh, great, it's doing really well in Iowa. Okay, but literally Iowa is Pensacola
Right.
in what's going on.
It's Iowa.
But, and not to say anything bad, I mean, but when you have 2 large states like Texas and Florida in there, and they can get it right, and they have an opportunity to get it right, and it's accepted it's truly working in some very populated areas that if you can get it in a conservative world between Texas and Florida, it's like, yeah, well, California is California, and New York is New York. You're talking about, like, the heart of conservative world when you're talking about 2 of those largest states. So I think that when that hospitality and that Southern Heartland embraces it, then other states will start to take notice, and it makes it, I guess, more acceptable in a way across the aisle. It doesn't matter which side you're on at that point.
In terms of educating the retailer and the consumer, as a distributor, we're doing everything we can through point of sale and signage and having workshops and that kind of thing. Our sales force truly understands it, understands the issues and the risks and all of the above. And so there's a learning curve for sure, but I think everybody has got to play a part in that consumer education.
For us, some of the suppliers went store by store, shift by shift, and educated our staff. And if we're not all following, as you said, we're not all following the same rules and speaking the same language, it's never going to work.